Hi everybody, welcome to High Voltage. My name is Lasha Royanko, and you have reached a video today wherein I am reading The Psychology of Secrets, written by Andrew Gold. This is his first book, and I am such an admirer of his content. This book needs to be read aloud, so if people can't afford the book, or sometimes people don't like to read. So I used to be one of those folks that did not like to read. And when I first started the channel, that's what I wanted to do. However, realized it wasn't my niche. I am continuing Ask Not, but every day I'm reading Ask Not and Psychology in Seattle, so you have a choice of which book you want to listen to. I will still continue to put up dancing and, whatever the spirit moves me, but this book is very essential and needs to be heard. So, it says, we all keep secrets. This shocked me. 97% of us are hiding a secret right now, and on average will hold 13 at any time. They're the stuff of gossip, of novels, of classic dramas, secrets from a major part of our inner selves, even though the energy expended in keeping them hidden is almost certainly harmful to our mental health. And here's my question, and here's my opinion. The reason people keep secrets is because of shame, fear, not fitting in. And oftentimes when people have secrets, they lie, and then they lose track of lies. Look at Meghan Markle. Andrew Gold knows this better than anyone. Also, if you are not healthy in your body, you are not healthy-minded. You can tell if somebody is healthy or not very easily. Andrew Gold, what initially drew me to his channel as a constant supporter of his content is because, first of all, he knows and he's fluent in 5 languages. He's done work for HBO, the BBC. He was in Argentina and filmed a documentary about exorcisms in 2021. This is his first book. He's the podcaster of Heretics, On the Edge. Heretics grew to like 300,000 people in a month. And I'll never forget when Andrew Gold he interviewed Richard Hayes, I believe, a detransitioner from transgender ideology, which is a fad, by the way. And I also think he's going to say it all. All right. Andrew Gold knows this better than anyone, a public persona. He found himself in the unwitting recipient of hundreds of strangers, including myself, but I never revealed my secret because I was afraid to. I messaged this man 1,000 times about you know what. For those of you that know me, my leg. What have I been not talking about lately? My leg. And for those of you that might just be walking by, walk on by. You can find the information as to why I started the channel. Okay. So, a journalist at heart, This sent him to a journey to understand this critical yet rarely analyzed part of our societies and lives. That is so true. Just like women don't talk about menopause. And another channel I love, you know, is TNT UK. And women don't talk about menopause. I'm going to. Emma, tune in. I'm going to talk about the menopause at any rate. So, why do we keep secrets? Why are we fascinated by those of others? What happens to our minds when we confess? Whom do we trust with our most confidential information? Drawing from psychology, history, social silence, philosophy, and personal interviews, Gold explores our deepest, darkest, most intimate selves. Are you ready? From Churchill's wartime minister who started a summer school with the sole purpose of pretending to be one of the pupils and getting the cane, to the Scientologist using secrets to deify Tom Cruise and endorse new members. To women in a German park who happens to hold the worst secret in the world. The Psychology of Secrets is a roll-licking journey through the history of secrecy, bringing us face to face with cult leaders, murderers, psychopaths, and even ourselves. And this is just a little bit about Andrew Gold. He's 35, turning 36. I don't know when his birthday is. However, his content should never be dismissed, ever. Andrew Gold is an investigative journalist, podcaster, and filmmaker who has made and presented documentaries for the BBC and HBO. He presents the popular podcast Heretics, where he has interviewed Richard Dawkins. Anybody see that interview? I listened to it 3 times. Robbie Williams and David Baddiel. Is that Baddiel? His documentary on exorcism. Oh, I want to watch this so bad. I've messaged him on his Heretics and on the Edge channel because I want to know where I can watch his documentary about exorcisms. And that's not the reason, but way back I started to read The Exorcism of Annalise Michael, and I wasn't consistent with it. And then the views just started to go down, down, down because of lack of consistency. You'll see the proof in the pudding. So, he speaks 5 languages, as I shared. His documentary on exorcism in Argentina won international festival awards. This is what he has done with his life up to 35, 36 years old is absolutely unparalleled. He walks to the beat of his own drum. I never knew he was 6'2" either. I thought he was just a little guy like Tom Cruise, because I remember him saying on one of his podcasts, how tall is he really? Well, anyway, so he's 6'2", and he's recently married, by the way. So the award that he won was an international festival awards, and his research into sexual deviancy in Germany received a prestigious Wicker Award nomination in 2021. The Psychology of Secrets is his first book. Now, the introduction reads this, so I do not need to read it again. However, Take a snapshot. Take a snapshot. Snapshot. And the glowing reviews at the back. Snapshot. The Psychology of Secrets. The Psychology of Secrets. My Adventure with Murderers, Cults, and Influencers. Andrew Gold. About the author, I already read that on the cover. The dedication to Julie. This is his wife. May we keep each other's secrets always. Now, if you want to see Andrew Gold and a picture of his wife, then you need to go to either On the Edge or Heretics. Go on the community page, and they fit like a glove. He deserves nothing but the best, and none of this has gone to his head. In other words, no ego. So we've got the table of contents, the introduction we read. The first chapter is called Secrets and Power, and that's what I'm reading right now. I'm just checking how many pages it is because I'm very well aware of how long I can read. I can read this first introduction. Ready? So if you're reading this book with me, Andrew Gold's Psychology of Secrets, we are on page 1, Introduction. She doesn't know it, but Melissa will be a murderer in 10 minutes. Just 20 years old and studying at a university somewhere in the UK, she is returning alone from a night out with friends. As she angles down the alleyway on her route home, so her regular route home or route, she is confronted by 2 men. One of them lurks in the shadows. How creepy, first of all. That's what I'm saying. And the other creeps toward her. He impedes her way, insisting she stay with them. He reeks of beer and cigarettes, and she feels sick. She wants to get to the end of the alley, but he stands between her and freedom. Her pulse quickening, she brushes past him toward the light at the end of the alleyway. His threats grow louder and more menacing. She is scared. Melissa is used to being accosted by men, especially when walking alone at night. Yet there's something about this guy that chills her to the core. But there's freedom at the end of the passage. She knows the neighborhood well. Didn't I say if she went down the same route, she probably went down that same route all the time, but this night was different. 2 creeps were stalking her and not letting her get through the alley. So, her pulse quickened. She brushes past him towards the light at the end of the alleyway. His threats grow louder and more menacing. She is scared but refuses to run. She won't give him the satisfaction. Melissa is used to being accosted by men, especially when walking alone at night. Yet there's something about this guy that chills her to the core. But yet there's freedom at the end of the passages. She knows the neighborhood well. If she can just make it to the adjacent street, there will be witnesses to intervene if things turn ugly. Well, this sounds like a smart woman who's listening to her intuition and her spidey senses. And if you don't listen to your intuition from the beginning, it can lead to so many wrong choices. Because don't forget, good intention can be the road to hell. That's what I'm saying. Before she reaches safety, she feels a firm tug at her elbow. She can't breathe. She can't speak. His words drone and slur, I'm sure reeking of alcohol and beer still. His words drone and slur, and fear takes hold of her. Now he is grabbing at her clothes. And the sound of ripped fabric is cutting through the darkness. Melissa lashes out with her right arm and her hand, and this is the only way she can explain it to me later. Dash passes through his eyes. A decade has passed, and what happened that night still weighs on Melissa. Even after years of therapy, it haunts her nightmares and fills her waking moments with dread. She can't quite piece together what happened, and perhaps she never will. I put my hands through his eyes, she seems to ask me. When I ask if she can explain in more detail, she gives me a play-by-play. If you put your hands on the side of someone's face, like to passionately kiss them, but higher up. You put thumbs really far in until it feels disgusting, a bit like a half-boiled egg in someone's eye, and you push in, she explains. I was surprised by how much liquid and blood came out, and he dropped me. I don't remember much, but I know that when I dropped to the floor, he ran off screaming. His mate kicked the shit out of me, and I basically passed out. Later, she came to in the alley. So, in other words, she came to consciousness. I would have written, later, she regained consciousness in the alley. Because when it reads, later, she came to in the alley, it doesn't really matter. That's what I would have written. But I'm not an author, and he is. So let's just stick with what Anders says. Later, she came to in the alley and set about finding her way home, fingers and wrists stained, crimson with the blood of her assailant. She recalls her ripped, frayed clothes billowing in the wind as she stumbled backwards. Strangers gave her a wide berth. She doesn't remember how she got home. Falling in and out of consciousness, see, he just said it. In her bed that night, she felt the phantom grip of the now dead attacker on her arm. As she sank somewhere between terrifying dreams and the walking nightmare of her new reality as a killer, throbbing sensations told her that her stomach and legs were in a bad state from the beating she had taken. I love the way he started off this. In 10 minutes, Melissa will be, because you just never know what is going to happen in life. So that one choice, that one night of her walking down her regular route home, 2 men beat her to death, and she did unalive one of them, and we will find out. I love the way he started it, because he does this throughout the book. He's an excellent writer. All right. I already read, but I'm reading it again. A decade has passed, and what happened that night still weighs on Melissa. Even after years of therapy, it haunts her. Nightmares, and fills her waking moments with dread. She cannot quite piece together what happened, and perhaps she never will. I put my hands through his eyes, she seems to ask me. When I ask if she can explain it in more detail. She gives me a play-by-play. I was surprised by how much liquid and blood came out because she pushed her fingers into his eyes, and the analogy she used is a bit like a half-boiled egg in someone's eye. I don't remember much, but I know that when I dropped to the floor, he ran off screaming. His mate kicked the shit out of me, and I basically passed out. Later, she came to the alley and set about finding her way home, fingers and wrists stained, crimson with blood of her assailant. She recalls her ripped, frayed clothes billowing in the wind as she stumbled backwards. Strangers gave her a wide berth. She doesn't remember how she got home. Falling in and out of consciousness in her bed that night, she felt the phantom grip of the now dead attacker on her arm. As she sank somewhere between terrifying dreams and the waking nightmare of her new reality as a killer, throbbing sensations told her that her stomach and legs were in a bad state from the beating that she had taken. She spent the next few days in bed, telling friends and university tutors that she was unwell. Eventually, mustering the energy to get up, she combed the local paper for anything revelatory about the night in question. In a sidebar, she discovered a story about a man who had been found dead in an alleyway. His eyes has been gouged out, she tells me. The news, as well as traumatic incident itself, has had a profound effect on Melissa. She suffers from panic attacks, PTSD, and insomnia. As she replays the images from an alleyway through which she has never since passed. So that was a smart choice, because we're born, we make choices, and then we move on to what we move on to at the end of our lives. She wonders whether the man had children and whether there might have been an other way out. Melissa is today a prominent blue tick professional. At least she was before Elon Musk rid Twitter, now X, of verification for well-known users. It's possible, you know. Her, by her real name, her antidote is one of the most curious and affecting I've heard, but it leaves me with one more question than answers. Who was the man? Why did his friend leave him in an alleyway to die? And how do you gouge somebody's eyes out like that? The details don't matter too much to Melissa. In fact, in the interviewing decade, she has only told one person, me, Andrew Gold. But Melissa knows me only a little better than the man who attacked her, the man she killed. She and I had met briefly in a pub through work colleagues, but hadn't spoken again, and yet a 5-minute WhatsApp voice message she sent me many months later let me in on something to which not even her friends and relatives were privy. I can't help wonder, why me? Well, Andrew, I'll tell you why you. Because you're a positive influencer. When that surgeon damaged the operation, and I had to have 3 corrective surgeries, and I was in a wheelchair for 1 year, and then I had 3 years of physiotherapy on my own because I couldn't afford it. The government threw me on ODSP, and then And then I still work 100%. And the kicker of it is the insurance company from the surgery. And all surgeons and doctors have insurance companies, okay? I got my scooter back, by the way. Now, I kept that to myself without telling anybody in authority for a long time. And when Andrew sent his WhatsApp number, I wish I had followed through with him. I'm mad at myself for not doing that. So why you, Andrew? Because you're you. There's nobody like you. And I want you and Julie to have lots of babies. I don't think you will, though, Andrew. At any rate, if you don't, that's okay. I just think that your intelligence, your DNA, your wife, you need to reproduce at least one child to carry on the gold name. But I'm sure you have brothers or sisters. But still, Andrew, you'd be such a good dad. That's why people adore you, because you're you, you're talented, authentic, 5 languages, your first book, podcast success, BBC, HBO, and this is a man without ego. I just wanted to add that. So, why me? Snow pats against the window next to my desk in my Berlin home one December evening, when I noticed a new message from someone called Camilla. Sporting long white hair and pushing 60, she is a keen Instagrammer and listener to my podcast, Heretics. She has liked a few of my posts, but we never had a conversation. Her message reads, I thought for a subject, and then in brackets, close to my heart, but you may not want my ideas. It signs off with 2 emojis of curiosity and shock. Don't feel bad, just an idea. For your eyes, ears only. Of course I write. I later ask her permission to use this story, and she suggests the alias of Camilla. It doesn't seem right for a woman of her generation. Maybe that's the point. So, I'm going through a rocky patch in my marriage, and in the last few months, I've made an online friend who has become an unhealthy addiction. Can't stop thinking about him, although I know it's pointless, not good for my self-esteem, she writes, before adding, and he's only 30, and she's pushing 60. That's wrong. That is so wrong. And he's not even my type, she's typing. At this, I'm a little insulted. She adds, he tells me I'm beautiful, sexy, wants more. Since I never said anything of the kind, I conclude that she is deranged. Then she describes not me, but an American musician with whom she's been exchanging nudes. The more I listened, the more I loved the music. It's as if his voice had a weird hypnotic effect on my lady bits, she adds. That sounds like something out of Baby Reindeer. I can see why she likes him. He is cool, handsome, a rock star to boot, but what is in it for him? He has never asked you for money, I ask. Crudely, no, never. I'm disappointed the narrative doesn't fit my explanations. I apologize, explaining that it is unusual to hear a man close to my age, super cool musician no less, a 60-year-old woman, at least, without monetary incentive. Oh, she writes, I imagine she is a little hurt. The space for new messages stays white as I stare at the snow out of my window for a few quiet moments. Then her ellipsis fizzes and pops. Well, I did buy his album. How much did it cost? $100 on Spotify donations. I gulp. The rock star has been convincing Camilla and possibly other vulnerable fans to give up her savings in return for a music main meal with a spicy side of dick pics. I stare at the phone. Camilla is an adult. If she wants to give up extortion, large sums of money for his music in the hope of getting something salacious, then that is her right. I decide this is none of my business and I shouldn't get involved. Then I get involved. I recommend she withhold money to see if she continues to send photos. Deep down, I think he partly is doing it to get money out of me, which is a horrible feeling, she replies. This time, the emoji is sad. Now, remember, this is a conversation between her and Andrew Gold on WhatsApp and however they communicated. This time, the emoji is sad. She goes on to reveal the intimate details to me about her 3-decade-long marriage. TBH. I don't know if I can stay with him. We're too different. I'm just terrified of being alone, broke and homeless. And I think so many women my age out there feeling that, unhappy but scared. Unhappy but scared. I feel sorry for Camilla, even if her story is a little extreme. We've all been deceived by people we thought were our friends. Don't I know it? Don't you all know it? Doesn't Andrew Gold know it? So, we've all been deceived by people we thought were our friends, but I wonder why she has chosen to transgress a 30-year bond of trust with her husband to tell me about her indiscretions. What was your idea for the podcast episode? I asked, suddenly remembering her reason for getting in touch. So I was thinking about how many lonely people there are out there trying to find connections, attention, and validation. Yes, that is so true, Andrew. See, maybe it was a good thing that I didn't rely on him to fight my battle. Going dumb shit like me, e.g., candid photos, pretend sex, fantasized, etc., an emoji of a laughing monkey covering his eyes perches at the end of the sentence. It's laughing as if to say, humans, what do you like? Camilla doesn't really have an idea for a podcast episode. She just wants to tell me her secret. Camilla and Melissa are not anomalies. The larger my podcast grows, the more I find myself the unwitting ruler of rising stack of sinister and sensational secrets. I didn't covet this. My podcast doesn't have a secrets theme. I interview extreme and controversial people and delve into cults, many of which feature in this book, yet almost daily confessions of wrongdoings and the secret desires swamp by socials. I've noticed something else. I do it too. I reveal secret information about myself that had no business being divulged. In particular, I reveal secrets to guests who are themselves journalists, for example. It probably wasn't necessary for me to volunteer to journalist Ron Ronson, and I'd been seeing a therapist and had suffered with anxiety, but I felt sudden compulsion upon meeting him. and blurted it out. And why did I tell 82-year-old evolutionary scientist Richard Dawkins that I never read his very serious book about the evolution of flight while in the bath with one of my deluxe salt bath bombs? He loves to take baths, by the way, which I think is a panic. Andrew, why don't you just start doing your podcast in the bathtub? You know, like Jerry Maguire? When the football star was calling Jerry Maguire, played by Tom Cruise, the deity of Scientology, the deity of Scientology, Tom Cruise and his fantasy that there's a Zulu and a world. What are you talking about? Go somewhere else and to whirl. I noticed something else. I do it too. I reveal secret information about myself that had no business being divulged. In particular, I reveal secrets to guests who are themselves journalists. For example, a guy read that already. But I feel a sudden compulsion upon meeting him, and it blurted it out. And why did I tell 82-year-old evolutionary scientist Richard Dawkins that I had read his very serious book about the evolution of flight while in the bath with one of my deluxe salt bath bombs? I know I read that already. I have since found that some of this is related to a phenomenon called parasocial interaction, where one person invests energy, emotion, and time in a relationship with someone who is completely unaware of their existence. Oh my God, don't we all know it? Personal interaction, where one person invests energy, emotion, and time in a relationship with someone who is completely unaware of their existence, like a talk show host or other celebrity. But still, what would have happened had I withheld that secret information? What compelled me to tell? My inbox is bursting with the declarations, revelations, and confessions of others. Many of my colleagues, podcasters, radio presenters, and journalists are also inundated with confessions. So much for my sophisticated worldview. The podcaster and the journalist, I suppose, share this curse with the therapist, their hairdresser, and the air steward. What is it then about our relationship with listeners and clients that compels them to confide in us? When I asked the 60-year-old rock-obsessed dick pic receiver Camilla why she had told me about her affair and struggling marriage, she simply explains, "I trust your journalistic integrity, and you're the only person I've told." The answer is flattering, but it doesn't satisfy me. I launched my podcast during COVID lockdown in the summer of 2020. At first, I pored over the listening figures, checking in every few minutes to spot any hint of growth. 20 listeners today, I would excitedly tell my partner Juliet, or Julie, who he dedicated this book to, which is his now wife. I had hundreds and thousands of loyal listeners waiting for each new interview to come out. Oh, and that's true. One of the best things about releasing a podcast episode is the instant feedback rather than checking stats. I was now scrolling through social media platform to interact with listeners at a time when we were all feeling rather cut off from society. It was a saving grace, but I couldn't have known then that my role as a podcast host would soon have charged as something perhaps far greater, the keeper of an inordained number of unsolicited secrets. At first, I was glad for the glimpse into new and hidden worlds, and for the intimacy and trust that extorted these confessions to my inbox from the most covert corners of the internet. But as the secret spun from such silly indiscretions as dick pics and online affairs to child blank abuse and I felt a duty to delve into the darkness at the heart of this phenomenon. What are secrets exactly? What happens to us when we keep them, and why are we so keen to share our darkest moments with total strangers? So I'm leaving it there. Wow, that's pretty good, Lash. 7 whole pages without interjecting. So tomorrow I'll be reading page 8 of Andrew Gold, The Psychology of Secrets, and this afternoon, after this video is uploaded, I'll be finishing Mary Jo Kopechne and Ted Kennedy. Okay? So I'm flipping every day from one book to another. So there's a lot of variety. I have put up some opinion pieces on underneath videos. Some of them have gained traction. Some of them are old news. However, I think our news goes by so quickly. Whenever you watch a YouTube channel, everybody is on the latest topic. Always. All I want to say is thank you, Andrew Gold, for writing this book, and the subscriber who wants to remain anonymous sent me this book and this book, because this was my dream read out loud. So I call him AI. Thank you so much. And your secret is safe with me. Now, that is a wrap. And if you don't know what wrap means, it's WRAAPS. I call this community our wrap community because it's about welcoming, respecting aspects of all people's societies. However, there's a different type of people than myself living here, which that lifestyle is so incredibly destructive to oneself. And I will talk about that. Thank you, Andrew Gold, and that is a wrap. Take care of yourselves very well. Be safe. Be kind to yourselves, and I will see you a little later on today. And I much appreciate it. Andrew Gold, thank you.